Hi there, Nick here from Conservation Careers and welcome to the podcast. Now, how do you design a training program that actually prepares conservationists for the real world? Well, in this episode, we're joined by Dr. Stephen Green, who's Senior Lecturer at Newquay University Centre and co-creator of our new MSc in Conservation Project Management. Now, together we reflect on the story behind this pioneering master's programme. We review its first year and discuss how it equips students with the real-world skills that conservation employers value the most, from project design and fundraising to communications and career planning. We also hear Stephen's own story, from the module that sparked the idea to his personal reflections on change, motivation and career clarity. It's an honest, it's a hopeful and a practical conversation for anyone navigating their path into conservation. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Stephen Green and I'm the current Programme Manager and co-creator of the MSc Conservation Project Management, which we run here at Newquay University Centre, which is part of the Cornwall College Group and also the University of Plymouth.
Great. Well, good to have you back on the podcast because we've spoken before about your career and your work and the master's programme that we've co-developed that we're here to talk about today. And it's nice to reconnect because we're sort of a year in now to the master's programme, aren't we? So
Yes.
Really the thrust of today is to catch up on what's happened, to kind of share the news, to hear your own personal story as well about how things have gone. But maybe the best place to start is let's just have a little reminder as to what this programme is and perhaps where it came from. Because I remember 3-4 years ago, an email came out of the blue from yourself saying you were developing this idea for a master's and could we have a chat? So yeah, wind the clock back for us. Let's start from there. I think that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea came from, initially we were running a third year module as part of our BSc, well, two BScs, BSc Applied Zoology and Conservation and also BSc Applied Marine Zoology. And there's a final year module in that called Conservation Project Management, where we try to do a lot, and we kind of started to realize that this was this one place where students were getting these brilliant skills about, they were doing crowdfunding campaigns, they were running projects, they were doing all of the stuff that they weren't really doing as much in the other modules. And it worked brilliantly in some respects. They were doing fantastic stuff, but it was a lot, it was a lot to try to cram into a module. And we started having these conversations about, well, there are all these skills and employers keep saying to us, we love this module because people are coming out of it with the skills that we want. Students are coming back to us saying, oh, I found that module really hard, but when I went and had that interview, that was the one module I found myself talking about, the project that I was running, the money that I'd raised and all this stuff. And that was really lovely to hear. But we recognized that in order to do it justice, we needed more time, we needed more space. So that's where the conversation about, well, let's think about how we can develop this further. And we started talking about running an MSc version of it. And so it then sort of landed on my plate as to develop this further. And it was at that point that I was already familiar with Conservation Careers and the work that you were doing. And I was thinking about what I was delivering and what I wanted to develop further and do more of, and the resources that you had. It became obvious that a conversation needed to happen between, I thought, well, let's just talk. Let's see. We've got these fantastic resources that already exist as part of Conservation Careers. Let's talk about that and let's see whether there's any way that could be integrated into what we deliver here. So I sent you an email, out of the blue, and maybe that's quite a nice lesson, isn't it? That sometimes these opportunities, it is just about sending an email sometimes, isn't it? Right time,
making contact,
right person, just why not? And then we started talking, and you seemed sort of quite excited about the idea in the same way that I was quite excited, and things went from there.
And what I was excited about was we're on the same page. Like, what we're looking to do is create trainings and support people to be as good as they can be in conservation and provide particularly the kind of core skills that is being led by employer demand in that, employers are looking for these things. We're not looking to necessarily teach, theory, just theory, or deliver knowledge. This is about, really kind of stepping back and saying, right, what are employers really looking for across this really diverse, sprawling sector that
Mhm.
we call conservation? And how can we create a program that really, creates people that are ready for employment? Yeah, if I can
Mhm.
sort of put it that way. So 3 or 4 years ago, we'd just been running some of our kind of foundation courses for a year or two, having done a review of the sector. So I've talked about this many times, but when we look about what employers really look for across all the job types, like the recurring patterns, the foundational themes, it's things like project management, like you were already talking about. It's things like fundraising. It's things like communications. These are kind of just transferable skills that employers are screaming out for that not many programs are delivering really, I think, right now in an academic setting.
Yeah, I think that it's things are having to shift, but you're right. It's a lot of graduates are finding themselves in that position where they've gained a lot of knowledge throughout their degree, but they haven't necessarily got those specific skills that when it comes to the application, demonstrate that you have experience of doing these things. It's all the
Mm,
stuff that you can do. Show me that you can do these things, rather than demonstrate that you have knowledge of
mm,
something. Some of it is, obviously you've got to have knowledge as well. But these things have got to be paired together. And that's why we decided that, okay, so by the time somebody has done their undergraduate degree, they should have developed a lot of knowledge, and then they're
mm.
looking to develop these skills. So the MSc that we wrote, we thought, right, this has got to be skills based,
Yeah.
and it's got to bring people in from all kinds of different backgrounds that have different knowledge, because conservation is extremely broad, and we
Mm,
don't want people just coming into it with one way of thinking, one bit of knowledge. We want all sorts of diverse people that can come in and then develop the skills that are needed within
yeah.
the industry. And so that was the approach that we took. And I think that by combining and collaborating with Conservation Careers during the development of the program, we have ended up with a really nice program that has talk about these sort of like core pillars of conservation, project management, funding, communications. There's lots of other skills that are really important as well, but I think that they kind of sit quite firmly at the heart of what we've tried to put together, which
Yeah.
has been really important.
Yeah. And before we kind of dive into actually what the master's program actually looks like, um, just to kind of touch on what we talk about there as well, in terms of how we see the job market as well, which links quite closely to this. So we see the job market as almost like two things. Like one is like cause-based roles. So if you think about what job you want to do, the causes might be ecology, it might be marine, it might be climate change, it might be plastic pollution, it might be barn owl conservation, it might be whatever. And those are quite sort of knowledge-based things you need to learn, and it's what many programs teach you. You come away with an ecology degree or a biology degree. Those are kind of courses. They're not necessarily skills that you're deploying.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about the jobs, it's a cause and it's a role, which is then often a skill set. So you might be a barn owl fundraiser, you might be a marine project manager, you might be a barn owl communicator and so forth. And we've been sort of leaning much more towards the kind of the roles and the skills, which can be then blended with the kind of the knowledge and the cause-based stuff that allows people to then create those niches. And I guess the bigger picture from our side is what we're looking to do is create clarity in the sector as to where people might go. And we'll talk a bit more about career planning in a bit as well and how we folded that in. Um, and really, where we want to get to is where we have actual career pathways laid out for people. And this
Mm-hmm.
is sort of one piece of that. So, if you wanted to be a lawyer or a teacher or a doctor or, whatever, normally it's quite clear what you need to do. You do this, you get this qualification, you get this experience, you apply for these jobs, which lead to those jobs and so forth. We haven't got anything as organized like that in conservation yet. But, the vision would be to get something like that. And this is a key part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? We were talking in the office the other day about the role of apprenticeships coming into higher
Mm,
education, um, and it's really tricky for conservation, because you can imagine that if you're doing something, if you're training to be, if you're training to be a doctor, okay, there are lots of different pathways you could then specialize. But if you were training to be have a trade, if you were training to be an electrician, you're training for a certain set of standards, working in a certain way, and you've got to demonstrate that you can do that. But yeah, conservation sort of it's so many different trades that you can't kind of just train for a generic conservation role, because it's more than that, which means that when we're designing these programs and the resources that we're doing, they have to account for that flexibility and diversity in what conservation is, which is, kind of, I guess, getting into the program. One of the first things that we do, and part of it is make sure that people are really reflecting on the experience that they currently have and the role that they want to go on and potentially do, but exploring that in more detail as well, and kind of making sure that the role that they think they want to do is actually the right one. So really looking at the jobs that are out there, the skills that they might need, and then going from there, which links really nicely with the Conservation Careers Kickstarter program that's integrated into what we deliver.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the program then. So what does it look like? What's included? How long does it last? Just give us a bit of a picture.
Yeah, so it's a 1 year full-time or 2 year part-time masters. There are also options to do kind of the postgraduate diploma or postgraduate certificate, which are kind of slightly shorter, lower number of credits. But if we just kind of talk about the MSc in general to begin with, so yeah, either one year full time. It's based down here at Newquay University Centre in Cornwall, or obviously 2 years part time. In terms of timetabling, we try to keep it as a minimum, so students are in for only actually in college for 2 days a week on the full time program, so they've got the rest of the time. We make it clear that you can't do a full time masters in just 2 days a week. There's other time that you're going to have to spend, but we want to make sure that that other time is available for not only doing the work that needs to be done as part of the course, but also getting out, working, volunteering, and so combining the taught element with the experience, and really kind of pushing that and making sure that that experience is built into our expectations, so that by the time you get out the other side, you've networked, you've built experience working and volunteering within the sector. And for part-time students, it works lovely because they're only in college 1 day a week, which gives them a lot more space to really do that. So it's also great for people that are already working in conservation that wants to then get the MSc as doing it, because, okay, at the moment, under the current version, it does mean having to come into Newquay University Centre 1 day a week. So yeah, geographically that might be problematic for some people, but for those who can, it allows them to work or potentially continue in the conservation job that they are already doing, and upskill and develop that as part of their continued professional development. And that seems to be working really nicely.
Yeah, it's nice. There's sort of two formats, isn't there? Sort of full-time, part-time, and sort of fit it around your life. Cornwall's quite a long way down, but it's also a beautiful place to visit.
It is.
Spend a bit of time into. So
yeah, it does mean that geographically we're sort of slightly isolated, but the payoff for coming all the way down here and being able to study where we are is hopefully worth it. It's an absolutely beautiful place of the world to spend a year or two of your life, and many people come down here and then stay for a bit longer because they love it so much, as I have done.
Absolutely, yeah. I can see it's got a suntan too, so obviously it's
Yes,
nice.
yeah. It was hot last week.
Yeah. In terms of the content of the masters, from our side, we deliver 4 programs that's sort of included, in the whole package. So you get the Conservation Career Kickstarter, which is a kind of a whole career planning program, really reflecting upon who are you as the kind of core foundation of career planning, really understanding yourself. What are your core skills? What do you enjoy doing? When do you get into kind of peak moments of flow? What can you learn from that? What are your superpowers? And so much more. Really understanding you. We're all different. We all thrive in different contexts and environments. And it's just sort of understanding that from the basis of then trying to figure out, okay, where you're going to land in a happy career. The second part of the Kickstarter then is really about, okay, so where do you want to go? What are all the different career options? We talked about that a little bit already today, but what are the causes you care about? What are the skill sets, the roles that you're interested in? What are the different employer types that might suit you and your personality? And then putting it together in terms of a career plan. How are you going to get there? What gaps might you need to fill alongside the masters and other training you might be doing, and so forth? So at the end of it, you get real clarity as to who you are and where you're going and how you're going to get there, along with the skills to actually deliver success, interview, application, training, all that sort of stuff. So in a nutshell, that's the Kickstarter that's included as the kind of career planning and development module. And then we have the kind of three core foundational modules, again, we've touched on. So one being project management, so important, and we talk about this a bit more in a second, but for that, it's about the conservation standards framework. It's about how do you design, develop, and deliver and manage and learn from a successful conservation project, sort of start to finish as this cycle. Linked to that, we have communications, kind of core focus. How do we reach audiences, develop messages that really connect with people and make a difference in the world? And how do we kind of, build our audiences and build support for the movement? And then we have fundraising as well, like how do you actually secure funds? And what I think is quite neat about the four aspects, but particularly those kind of three skills aspects is, well, one, they're driven very much by demand of what employers are looking for. And two, they fit together so neatly as a kind of a cycle as to how a conservationist typically goes about doing their work in so many different contexts. So, projects are the pixel size of activity, the Lego brick really of what happens in the sector. And the first thing many conservationists do is design or develop a project from scratch. Like, what are the problems? How are we going to solve it? What's our timeline, what the activities, what do we expect the outcomes to be? Like, just develop a solid project that's been well thought through. That's what the conservation standards is there to do. Having done that, well, how do we then get that idea off the ground? Well, you fundraise for it typically. Often it's about writing proposals to donors for funding or other ways of raising funds as well, but typically that would be the route. Once you have the money, well, then it's back to the standards really about actually then delivering, managing a really solid project, being agile and adaptive, learning, making sure it's that we're learning and improving all the time, sharing lessons. And then that really does link to sharing lessons. It's the communication. It's about telling people about what you did, whether that's donors or whether that's other audiences and so forth. So the whole thing kind of fits together a really nice cycle of how people work and what employers are looking for.
That's exactly it. And I think that that design, the management, project management design module, the idea of using the conservation standards and integrating that with the Moretti software, which allows us to implement the standards, which you end up with these what look like quite complicated plans, but effectively it's that making sure that you've got this really clear conservation target, and you're then assessing these problems and kind of all of the contributing factors that impact those, and just really clearly finding. You're not going to be able to solve the whole thing as an individual. Maybe as a larger organization or a group of organizations, you can kind of start hitting more of those problems. But really just kind of looking at where those problems are. And often it is about, right, we need to do this thing, but we're not going to be able to do that thing until we get the money. So it's having that really crystal clear project plan that you can demonstrate that theory of change, that it's going to have an impact, a positive impact on your conservation target, and taking that as part of your, so rather than just saying, oh, we need some money to conserve, whatever it might be, to conserve lynx or tigers or coral reef, having the thought, that theory of change of how much money you need and what you're going to do with it all the way through, so that you have really strong funding proposals, or a really clear narrative, clear story, communicating to your audience and your supporters about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and writing it or communicating it in a way, in an appropriate way for that audience. So we as part of the funding module that we do here, so we obviously integrate the module that the Conservation Careers delivers online.
Mm.
But I guess that the nice link between Conservation Careers courses and what we then do and deliver is that we get the students to actually implement the learning that they've had. So you'll learn about crowdfunding, you'll run a crowdfunding campaign with the other students, and you will generate money. And we've been really successful with that with our undergraduate version of it, the module. Every year we're raising a few £1,000s here and there for local conservation organisations. We're getting match funding from core council, all these things that are really important. But in order to do that, you've obviously got to be effective in your communications, and it's a learning process, right? That's it. You're not going to get it perfect the first time round, but the only way that you build that experience is by doing it, which is why we kind of throw students into it. And that's why when you come out of the program and you get asked that question, you say, what experience do you have of fundraising? You can say, well, I have run a crowdfunding campaign and I have hopefully raised money. There's nothing within the program that requires you to raise any money. You're not being assessed on your ability to raise a certain amount of money. It's the reflection. So if you run a crowdfunding campaign and you don't hit your target, and you could, some people might see that as a kind of, oh, we failed to do that, but it's not actually. A crowdfunding campaign is much more than that. You've communicated to a large audience. You've got a lot of information about the kind of people who are supporting you. You're generating data that is going to, in a conservation management context, you're going to use all that information in your adaptive management side and say, right, okay, so we didn't hit our target this time. How are we going to adapt this next time? How are we going to communicate differently? What do we need to do so that we can continue? But you're not starting from scratch at that point. You've already gone one cycle. You're adapting. You're fine-tuning, you're going again. But so far we've actually, every time we've done it, we have hit our target, and I think that's because students really kind of want to push to get over that line, which is fantastic. But to reassure people, you're not being assessed on your ability to raise money for a specific organisation. It's understanding whether why you did or didn't hit a target. That's kind of the assessment point.
So and that opportunity to actually do what you've learned and therefore showcase to employers, it's so valuable. It's easy to say to someone, I know something, but it's very different to say I've done something or I can do something. And that's what employers are really looking for. They're looking for like promise, they're looking for actual delivery, if you like, and that is really nice. That's been built in. It's part of the innovation of the Masters program.
And as you were saying about these kind of core modules dovetailing together really nicely. That's why we teach. So we teach on the full-time program, you're going through and you're doing your funding module and you're doing your communications module at the same time. They're complementing one another. So you're using those skills across both. In the part-time route, the way it's structured at the moment is that you do your communications module in the first year, you do your funding module in the second year. We've done it in that way because we want you to have those communication skills in place before you then go in to do your funding, because it's all linked together, and you're able to then use those skills that you have either already completed in your first year or that you are learning at the same time as you're going through it. So it's all been designed about using the skills, developing skills, using them, and being kind of assessed on the practicalities of doing it. And there's bits of theory involved, there's bits of writing that needs to kind of write reports and things. But in the age of generative AI, which is the other big problem, big challenge for universities and higher education, being able to have assessments that really get to the core of whether you can do things, and produce things, and potentially with the aid of generative AI, rather than trying to kind of push it to the side and pretend it doesn't exist, recognizing it's going to be used within all industries moving forward. So it's how can we use that as a tool for making conservationists even more effective, so we're all going to be able to do more or expected to do more.
Yeah.
So how do we build that into? So that's really interesting, interesting challenge that everyone's wrestling with at the moment. But I
Yeah,
think that this
absolutely.
this program, because of the way that we have designed the modules and assessments, it sort of it benefits from it in many ways. So rather than us having to be kind of too concerned about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge opportunities with it too. I love that you kind of, yeah, using it as a tool and seeing it as an opportunity as well. Um, so we're a year in. You know, the
Yeah.
program's been running for a year. The first cohort have been part-time, so they're halfway through their 2 year studies. What are your reflections on that year? Like, how has it gone? What stands out from you? Any stories you want to tell? I mean, yeah, share what you want or what you
Yeah.
don't want, really.
Yeah. I mean, I've been I've been really, really pleased with how things have gone this year. Starting a new MSc, it can be kind of daunting. You have a plan, but you don't quite
Mm,
know exactly how everything's going to go. We've been really fortunate that the first cohort that we've had through um, have they've gelled brilliantly, and they've all got different backgrounds and experiences that have complemented one another, and they've been able
mm.
to learn from each other as well as we've gone through and
Without
been
being
really
specific, like
supportive.
what are their backgrounds? Like,
So
what
yeah,
does that scope? Yeah.
so we've got a couple of students that have come sort of directly through. They've just finished their BSc.
Yep.
One in um, so ecological
Hmm.
resource management. One in sort of more traditional zoology background.
Hmm.
And then we had one of our students had graduated quite a few years ago and had been off doing conservation work in Central America, running programs, conservation programs out that way, and then had decided that they wanted to sort of after COVID come back and be here and get more involved in UK conservation. So looking for kind of the next step in their career.
Mm.
We have a a student, a mature student who has already had quite a long career, but sort of outside of conservation, and now wants to get into conservation later in her career. And she has been working, sort of doing some consultancy on the side, but wanting to kind of develop more formal training in conservation in general. So, and then we've got another student who also completed her degree in applied marine zoology a few years back and is coming back into wanting to, finding it maybe kind of difficult to get the jobs in the job market that she would ideally like to get. So seeing this as a mechanism for trying to do that. So we've got people in different phases of their careers, from kind of straight in from undergraduate degree to coming back in from completely the other side of things. And regardless of which direction people have come in, we're getting the same feedback that it's been a really valuable process so far up until this point of just being able to have that time, especially with the Kickstarter, which fits into our professional development module, to just really reflect on where they're at within their career path,
Mm.
where they want to get to, and the steps that they need to take in order to get there. And the fact that they've all got different experiences and want to go in different directions sort of is brilliant. It doesn't matter. We talk about within the Kickstarter program, there's kind of the handbook, and there are different sessions that we go through, and one of them is identifying your superpower within conservation,
It's
or
the
right,
first session, I think,
or
the
just
first unit, the first
yeah.
module. That, yeah.
What are your kind of superpowers? Um, I know, like when the students went through that, and myself and Dr. Kathy Baker, who teaches that module, we decided we'd go through the process ourselves. And being very British, we found it quite difficult to sort of like think about what our own superpowers are. But
And
we
just for
kind of did it.
context here, the superpowers is about asking your friends and family who know
That's
you well,
right.
isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
what superpowers do you see in me? Get that feedback from others. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's putting
So
yourself out there. Yeah.
that's it. So asking other people how they see you, what they think your strengths are,
Mm.
which is, yeah, it leaves you sort of maybe feeling a little bit exposed and vulnerable. But I think that's the key, isn't it? It's just allowing yourself to reflect fully and kind of see how other people see you, not just how you see yourself. But I think that one of the superpowers of this course is that ability to take people in from any direction. It's not just zoology and conservation graduates, it's people that are coming in having had a career somewhere else, and recognizing that conservation is a really, really broad field that needs people from all different backgrounds. So if you are, you're there, you've been working hard, developing lots of really, really relevant skills that could be used by conservation organizations, but you don't have a degree in zoology conservation, then that doesn't matter. It's all about recognizing that you have something to contribute to conservation organizations, and this is the time to reflect on, right, what are my superpowers? How can I really help an organization in a fulfilling way? But not only what's going to help a conservation organization, but what's going to help you and feel satisfied in your work and your life in general. And so I think that all of us going through that process, the students, and also in the first iteration of this program, I wanted to go through that myself. So I sat in on those classes and I went through the whole process with the students. And we might get onto that a bit more later on, but I found it from my own professional practice really, really informative. Just having that time to stop and be forced to really think and answer quite, I say hard questions. They're not hard questions, but it does require you to stop and be reflective. And reflective practice is what this whole program is about. It sits at the heart of the conservation standards. It's that first step: assess what, if there is a problem, what that problem is, and then going through to making a plan, implementing it, and doing, going, and then reflecting again and kind of sharing what you've learned. And this podcast, I guess, is part of that. We've gone through one iteration of the first year of the part-time route. We're now reflecting on how it's gone, and I think from the start of the program to where we are now, halfway through for the first year of the part-time route, the students have come in. They have really thought about those skills that they've needed. They've then used, so there's the grant, so the professional development grant, that was some of the money that we give back to students to then do the things that they want to be able to do. They've spent some of that money in accessing courses and doing the things that they now know are kind of right for them. And some of the students came in with an idea thinking, oh, maybe I want to go into consultancy. And as part of that process, I thought, actually, that's not quite what I want to do, and it doesn't align exactly with my values and what's going to make me happy. And so have kind of pivoted mid-course and are going off in a slightly different direction now, which is great. Having that time to think about what it is you want to do, and then make sure that your path is heading in that right direction. And superpower of the course, if you come in with one idea and then during that, those first couple of months, you decide that isn't the right direction, the course is flexible and everyone's going to be going off in different directions. So you're not signing up to do one specific thing. You're signing up to allow yourself to have either a year or 2 years developing an appropriate career path for you, and the skills are transferable along the way. So that's working really well. And I think the way that these modules dovetail together is working brilliantly, working with the local conservation organizations as well. And we had a brilliant field trip. Reflecting on the first year, built into the program, there is a module that is a field trip. So we spent, there are two versions of it. There's a UK version, which we base on all around the southwest. So here in Cornwall, and then just over the border into Devon. And so included within the cost of the MSc is a week of going around camping, visiting conservation projects and evaluating them. So it's not that traditional go on a field course and learn lots of survey techniques. There's a little bit of survey techniques involved within it, but it's more about let's go and actually see some conservation projects in action. Let's go and talk to people that are doing conservation, and let's listen to all of the challenges that they face. And that allows us to then apply the conservation standards to these projects and say, right, well, we've learned about this, and we can see the challenges, and then as part of that assessment, they have to then think about, well, where could they potentially intervene, either through applying a funding or a communications campaign, or other opportunities to but the main thing is it was a lot of fun. We spent a week camping and having a really, really nice time, getting to spend time with Cornwall Wildlife Trust. We went over to Derek Gow's Rewilding Coombs Head project. We saw rewilding in action from different approaches to rewilding, and really, really kind of different ways of doing conservation. We saw small conservation projects, big ambitious landscape scale conservation projects, and we're able to kind of identify all the sort of the themes that linked these things together, and how conservation is actually done. All the while talking to these people. So, like, what are you looking for in the people that you're employing on these projects, or what skills do you have? And so, constant kind of learning experience. Obviously, there is an alternative form of that module, which is the international field trip, which we haven't run as part of the first year. We did, most of the students wanted the UK version, but hopefully we'll get that up and running, as long as there's enough interest in it. So, being able to take people to experience conservation in the real world, rather than just in the classroom, I think it's important. It's also just a really lovely way to spend some time. That was a real highlight, I think, of the year so far.
Sounds great. Two things I'd like to talk about then towards the end. One is, well, if people are interested, like, how can they find out more? Enrollment is open now, am I right in saying? We are recording, it's the 18th of July, 2025. What's the process? What are the deadlines? Have you got those to mind?
So we're still accepting applicants for a September 2025 start, if people are sort of thinking about doing it either on the part-time or the full-time route. The easiest thing to do is if you go to our website. Or if you were to just kind of go into a search engine, Google MSc Conservation Project Management, Newquay University Centre, that will take you to the appropriate page. On that page for the course, you will find a number of videos. So there is the original podcast that we did way before we even kind of started the program. There's also a webinar that we did recently that talks you through all the modules and everything. So that's kind of where you get most of the detail. You can apply directly, sort of hit the apply now button through that page, but you can also find the details for us sort of staff here. So initially, contact us, send us an email. So all the information will be on that page on how you can get in contact. Over the summer with staff on annual leave, I think that it will take you through to a general kind of filtering thing, which will then get pushed out to the duty staff. So hopefully somebody, regardless of kind of who's on annual leave, should get back to you. So if you are interested in a September start, we'd encourage you to get in contact soon. There's still time, but obviously for you, in order to kind of make preparations and plans for being down here ready for a September start date, you need to consider that. But if you're thinking about next year, September 26th, then speak to us now, and see if the program is going to be right for you. We would always say to everyone, look around. There's lots of different programs out there, lots of different ways that you can do a master's, lots of different training that you can get. And as I say in the webinar, you can access these courses, the conservation careers courses, obviously through yourselves. You don't have to do our masters in order to have access to them. But what we provide is a way of, I guess, interacting with that content in an extended format, which then allows you to get your official qualification. So it's a University of Plymouth MSc that we deliver here at Newquay University Centre. And so if you're looking for that version of the program, then yeah, get in contact, see if it's the right thing for you.
Right. And we'll obviously provide links in the show notes and wherever you're listening to this or reading it or watching it even. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask as well is like about you, Stephen. Like obviously you talked about going through the Kickstarter yourself as part of your own professional development and really understanding what you're delivering to as part of the master's program. Like what have been your insights from reflecting your career, who you are, where you want to go? Is
Yeah,
there anything you kind of want to share around that?
yeah, absolutely. I found it really powerful. And I've so when you're working in a role, often you go day to day, sort of just doing the job,
Yeah.
and it's really busy, and absolutely love the job that I do, but there's not always that time to just think about,
Mm.
right, so what sort of like what's the long term kind of plan you're sort of just you're going through and doing week to week, month to month. And that module allowed me to really kind of go back and sort of think about how I got to where I am and what is important to me and where I'd like to go. And it forces you to reflect not only on your career and professionally, but personally, what's important to you in life in general, family, friends, location, and all these things.
Mm.
Um, and what came out of it when I went through the analysis was that um, the things that were going to make me the happiest and the things that I wanted to do, I probably needed to make some adjustments within both my kind of personal, family, and professional life in order to get to that next peak. You sort of think about this
Yeah.
mountainous
Yeah.
landscape, and I kind of like I'm on a mountain, I'm at the top of the mountain, and I'm really happy there. But you kind of look out, and suddenly you sort of see in the distance
Yeah.
that there's another mountain that's over there, and actually potentially that's where I could be more effective and be doing some even better. Well, not better, but it might be kind of time to go there.
Yeah.
Getting there is sort of like you'll go all the way back down through the valley, probably have some hardship, and then
Yeah.
climb back up to the other side of the mountain and kind of be there. And that's really tricky. But then that's where the conservation project management and design bit started kicking in, because I was combining these two things and thinking, right, so I've kind of identified that there are some other things that I would like to be doing more of, and that involved potentially kind of having more time to actually do conservation. So I teach a lot, right, and I love
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but I don't then have a lot of time to do the actual getting involved in conservation. I do a fair bit, but I'd like to do more. But how can I kind of make that space? So I started then using the conservation standards, these project management tools, and thinking, right, so I need to kind of make some sort of theory of change for myself, and how do I get there? And the professional development plan that I was doing in the Kickstarter. What are the things that I need to do? Where are the gaps in my knowledge? Because as when you're in a job, there is the danger that other areas of the industry sort of continue to evolve, and you've got to upskill all the time. So I started looking at what the things that I needed to maybe kind of develop as I kind of went forward, and so started thinking about that training, and then also kind of the personal side of it. So as a result of all of that, I've been sort of really fortunate in that I've been able to hand over some more of the kind of administrative duties for the program to a colleague, that's allowing me to free up space that then sort of I can realign family stuff. I can have more time for looking at new developments, getting involved more actively within conservation projects, and also exploring new ways of developing kind of this program and other programs further. So it's yeah, it's been a really, really good thing for me. That means that my career is sort of just it's allowing me that journey to continue, right? Rather than just sort of staying where I was perfectly happy and everything was good. but it's forced me to think, right, okay, so how do we keep going with this?
Yeah.
And so that's what I've learned from it, and being then active in asking for things and taking action so that things do change
Yeah.
rather than not.
Yeah.
In which case they don't. So and I guess that goes sort of full circle to where all of this came from, sending that email to
Yeah.
you and just having that conversation. Sometimes it's deciding to take some action that then opens up other opportunities. And so I guess for people listening to this podcast that are thinking, well, is an MSc the right thing for me? Maybe not.
Mm,
It's about maybe just taking that action to
mm,
investigate to
mm.
see whether it is, and it might be, and it might be that catalyst that then unlocks all sorts of other things, or deciding to go and do one of the course standalone courses with conservation careers or whatever it might be,
Mm,
but just deciding to give yourself some time to think
mm,
and then acting on it. And
mm.
that's what I've learned is that sometimes life can get so busy and doing that thing it just never happens because
Yeah,
she's busy doing all the other stuff. So take some time for yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
Reflect on your own plans, and yeah, get a plan, and then just start chipping away at little things that then just those little steps that can then go on to make actually quite big changes. This whole program came out of um, conversations and email, and like all
yeah,
things, they
yeah,
they start off small and you get that groundswell and they develop, and exciting things happen.
yeah. Absolutely, they do. Yeah, and I'm so pleased for you as well. I think it's so exciting, and I think those two lessons that you shared are so important. One is about just sort of taking time for yourself, and
Mhm.
you've done that, by doing the Kickstarter, within your kind of core time, and the perspective you shift you get with you on like a master's program, or even if you're on
Mhm.
a trip or on holiday, or just taking yourself out of the normal and
Yeah.
spending some time thinking about things and having the structure of something like the Kickstarter or whatever, really just to think about who you are and where you want to go. That's number one. I think that really helps.
Mhm.
I always have my best ideas when I'm walking,
Yeah.
walking down the river or something like that. Just shift your perspective. And then number two, just getting some clarity as to where you're going, that direction piece. And they can be baby steps, can't they? They don't have to be big.
Yeah.
Like career planning and reflection, it should be not a constant thing, but a regular thing. I think like a
Mm.
recurring beat within your life. I like to do it sort of annually, something like that. It's nothing's ever fixed. You're on top of your mountain. You can see another mountain that you want to move towards, and there's another one behind that. There's another one behind
Yeah.
that. It's just a journey of progression. Like who am
Exactly.
I and where am I going?
And it's important not to kind of fall into the trap of just constantly be looking at the horizon, never being happy
Yeah,
where
no,
you are, um, but recognizing that it's also sort of okay to periodically just
yeah,
give yourself that time to look around and
yeah,
see whether there is somewhere else that you'd like to move on to. And so for career switchers that are looking to come into conservation,
hmm,
that's sort of like you might be really quite happy in your job, very comfortable in your job,
yeah,
and knowing that a career change that's really disruptive and going to be a lot of kind of work and things, but it's worth exploring and just taking some time to look around and just see whether that is the right thing for you to do. And if it is, I do think that this program offers, especially career switchers, an opportunity to build those skills and take the skills that they have to go on and to get something that's going to help them, help you to find that job in conservation. It's all got to be linked with volunteering and work, and we say that a qualification on its own is not going to kind of land you that job. But because this qualification is very focused on developing skills, hopefully it's going to, paired with you working at the same time and volunteering and eventually doing your big research project at the end, your conservation project, all of that combined puts you in a really good place to then start making progress within the sector, I think.
yeah. And a year from now, we should be seeing people graduating from the program, seeing where they're going.
Yes.
Exciting times ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Stephen, it's been really good reconnecting, hearing how things are going. It's been really fun working with you for sort of 3 or 4 years now,
Mm.
developing this. And yeah, be fun to see what happens over the next 12 months and more in the program, and also for yourself personally. So, yeah, so thanks for sharing
Yeah.
everything today. We'll share links with people who might be interested in the program. Can go off and have a little look. I'm looking forward to meeting the new cohort too and see how things are going. And yeah, is there anything sort of final thoughts you want to share before we wrap up?
Um, no, I think that it's really nice to just have got to the end of the first year with everyone being so happy.
Mm,
The I guess when you run programs, you expect there to be sort of a few teething problems and things, but it's just run unbelievably smoothly with everyone coming out happy, and it's really lovely to see this relationship between Newquay University Centre and Conservation Careers, excuse me, yeah, growing and see where it goes from here. So
yeah,
exciting.
long may it continue. Stephen
Yeah,
Green, thanks again.
thank you very much.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you did, then please do hit the subscribe button to get notified of new episodes as they drop. And also, please give us a rating or a review because it really helps us to get in front of more people, and we really enjoy reading them all. As you'll have heard, our podcasts are now recorded in front of a live audience who sit in and listen to the chat, and then after the mics are turned off, they get a chance to talk to the host, to share their thoughts, and also to ask questions. It's a really great format. If you'd like to be in the audience, all you need to do is join the Conservation Careers Academy. Now, in the Conservation Careers Academy, you'll get full access to the world's biggest conservation job board, listing over 15,000 jobs, volunteer and internships across the globe each year. You'll also enjoy access to our amazing CC Pro private members community with regular events, networking and support. Plus, you'll get full access to our growing library of career-boosting resources, guides and templates. And best of all, it only costs a few dollars, euros or pounds per month to join the Academy. Now, to find out more, please visit conservation-careers.com/academy or simply click the join button at the top of our website. See you on the inside.